James Gunn proves that good things come to those who wait, giving VFX artists the time they need to make Superman soar with stunning visuals. Welcome to Stats In. If you're just joining us, please subscribe and don't forget to turn on notifications bell for more video. This comes as a pleasant surprise, as not often do we get to see such a wide gap between the wrap-up and the release. However, James Gunn has a perfectly valid and honorable reason for this: the convenience of his VFX artists. James Gunn is on his way to revamp the DCU, and in under a year fans will know if he was able to succeed or not. On July 11, 2025, David Corenswet will replace Henry Cavill and take over the mantle of Superman. While there is still a long way to go before the film comes out, James Gunn has confirmed that they have already wrapped up the shoot. The VFX crews at Walt Disney Studios even filed to unionize with the National Labor Relations Board, demanding protection from exploitation. Over the past couple of years, a ton of VFX artists have spoken up against the rough working conditions over at Marvel Studios. There were complaints about them being overworked for short periods of time and not being compensated enough for their time and hard work. However, James Gunn has decided to do things in a more appropriate and human way with his upcoming film, Superman. On Threads, a user mentioned the mistreatment of VFX artists who were forced to work with very tight deadlines to Gunn and added how that led to horrific CGI in films. He then asked if he planned on taking a different approach with his DC films. Gunn, who has always been very active on social media when it comes to replying to fans' concerns, wasted no time before explaining his approach. He stated that with just a little bit of research, anyone will be able to see how he has always given his VFX artists ample amount of time to finish their work, resulting in great quality CGI. The VFX crews at Walt Disney Studios even filed to unionize with the National Labor Relations Board, demanding protection from exploitation. After fans came across Gunn's comments on Threads, they were quick to express appreciation for his work in films like Slither and Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3. He then went on to reveal that Superman's filming had been wrapped a year before the release, precisely for this reason only. In fact, DCU's other film, Supergirl, is being handled the same way despite Gunn not directing it. Well, you might not love the guy, especially if you are a die-hard fan of Zack Snyder's work in the DCU, but you gotta admit, he knows how to look out for his employees. A VFX artist himself left a comment on Gunn's thread stating, "Speaking as one of those VFX artists, thank you for being one of the seemingly few not throwing us under the bus and pushing the no VFX / everything is practical bullshit." When another user assumed things could sometimes be out of Gunn's hands when it comes to the studio imposing deadlines, the filmmaker assured them that he always takes appropriate measures to ensure things stay in control. "No. Because I've always had a script essentially finished months before shooting, always completely storyboard, and I've always insisted we be wrapped in time to do quality visual effects. I wouldn't make a big film like that without the proper amount of post-time. Since there is a whole year to go before the release of David Corenswet and Rachel Brosnahan's Superman, VFX artists have ample time to work on the film's CGI. We hope that this results in some of the most jaw-dropping scenes to come out of the superhero genre. After all, Gunn sure has a lot of expectations to fulfill." User at Caleb_Thullen wrote, "For what it's worth, I just watched Slither a couple nights ago and the VFX still hold up." Meanwhile, at Preston_Williams stated, "Guardians 3 had me gobsmacked and engaged right from the start because Rocket was so obviously there and going through some things. Thanks for giving those VFX people your time and your trust." In his replies, a ton of people were also thanking him for treating VFX artists with such grace and respect. At Jeff Serenelli wrote, "This is true. Thank you for what you do and for honoring the creative process in our industry." James Gunn shared his thought process behind casting David Corenswet as Clark Kent and Rachel Brosnahan as Lois Lane in his Superman film. Welcome to Stats In. If you're just joining us, please subscribe and don't forget to turn on notifications bell for more video. Since James Gunn's Superman will be hitting the big screens sooner than it seems, the filmmaker and actors are already appearing in interviews to talk about it all and give fans an insight into what they will be witnessing soon through Gunn's version of the DCU. One of these interviews had the genius discussing the casting process behind the leads as well. Amidst all of this, quite a lot of speculation is also surrounding how Gunn's version would be different than Zack Snyder's. And it seems like Gunn may as well have already surpassed Snyder in one major aspect. This is through the simple-minded concept he used to nail Corenswet and Rachel Brosnahan's casting, as opposed to what Snyder did in his saga, James Gunn's version. of Superman will soon be launched on the big screens, and the buzz surrounding it couldn't be louder than ever. While many are still unsure if his revamped version of the DCU that would feature David Corenswet as the new Clark Kent would be worth it, many others already have their hopes high with Gunn about it all. That said, in the end, what actually mattered to Gunn regarding their casting was that not only did they fit their character descriptions, but also complemented each other as their respective characters. As Gunn said, as shared by the @Raiders Lost Pod on X, Gunn shared just what brought him to cast both Brosnahan and Corenswet in the respective roles of Lois Lane and Clark Kent in his upcoming movie. Initially, he jokingly admitted, these two auditioned, and they were the best. At the same time, he also explained how he saw perfect chemistry between the two, saying, I think, since they also auditioned together, and when I was casting Lois and Clark, I wasn't just casting Lois and Clark. I was casting Clois. I was casting what their relationship was together and the energy they have between them. He emphasized how he needed to be sure that Rachel Brosnahan as Lois and David Corenswet as Clark could actually fit perfectly together. I needed to believe that this was a guy that a woman this intelligent would actually fall in love with. And I also needed to believe that this was a woman that was going to challenge somebody who was a super powerful alien from another planet. It really was their energy, their back-and-forth nature. So that they have this ping-pong relationship that we need to have and the S**Zool chemistry that they have. Needless to say, this simple-minded logic is as perfectly understandable as can be, and it seems to be working out just fine as well, considering how a majority of the reviews regarding the chemistry between the two have been nothing short of sweet. But this factor also points out how Zack Snyder seems to have missed this element in his storytelling process. That said, in the end, what actually mattered to Gunn regarding their casting was that not only did they fit their character descriptions, but also complemented each other as their respective characters. As Gunn said, of course, since Clark and Lois are basically the main protagonists of the saga, it's very important to fans and viewers that they are rightly cast, and the chemistry between them is actually felt. This is why, after acknowledging Gunn's response on why he chose only Corenswet and Brosnahan for the respective roles, fans are expressing their satisfaction and approval. Taking to X, here's how they're letting out that they're happy with the mastermind's take on casting the two main leads in love in his forthcoming DCU piece. For one, while the films from the Snyderverse had more grounded and mature characters, with Henry Cavill fitting just perfectly as the Man of Steel, what they seem to have brutally failed at was casting Lois Lane. Even though Amy Adams is, indeed, one of the finest actresses in all of Hollywood, she just didn't seem to fit as Lois, especially alongside Cavill's Clark. To be frank, Snyder really miscast Adams in the role, considering how not only did fans point out that there seemed to be no real chemistry between her and Cavill, but also deemed her acting to have felt wooden and bland, see Reddit. Acknowledging this, Gunn's comment feels so basic and logical, and thus, earns him the upper hand in the casting and chemistry field. These fan reactions are, obviously, more than enough to emphasize that James Gunn just may as well have given one of the best answers of his life while sharing how he felt David Corenswet and Rachel Brosnahan would fit immaculately together. What remains to be